Everybody okay with that?
Along that line, I don't know if you've seen the letter from Mancuso.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you
Yeah,
wanted
we
that-
have it,
that's
have
part
it
of
down
it.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's number 3 of the new business.
I wish they had come to the hearing.
Well, this is the public, tonight is.
Today is
public
the
hearing.
tonight is the public hearing.
So they'll be read at the public hearing?
Yeah, you
Or-
could, that's why I was just drawing your attention to
Okay.
it when she was talking
Yeah.
about the enactment of local law number 3. This pertains to local law number 3. So if you haven't read it, you should read it.
It's should I read it?
Well, I don't, if you want to wait till,
Yeah, let's wait for the
public hearing,
yeah for the public hearing. All right, and then we have the fire department report for October 2017. And Ryan is not here, so I can tell him that he doesn't have to send all this. Maybe he was coming.
he sends it electronically. Lori's not supposed to take a copy
That's
of the
what I-
whole thing.
yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to tell her that, so that's
Okay,
my
all
bad.
right.
Yeah.
That's fine. No, that's also. Is there anything you want to say about the report? Okay. And then we have a donation from the Beaver Club for police speed monitoring message board. So that's really good. Now we have to find the rest of the money.
The 10,000 for you.
It's 1750,
It's
right?
17,500.
Yeah.
Oh, is that what the total
The
is?
total.
Mhm.
So they're committing to 10 with the possibility of an additional 5 depending on the needs of their other requests from the organization. So any other organization listening, don't submit anything.
We're going to stop all the other requests right here. We're stopping everybody
I would
else.
like to thank, the Beaver Club for being such a wonderful part of this community.
Absolutely, yes. They're
Very generous, we're lucky.
they're everywhere. They give money to everybody, so we really appreciate that. And then we have the letter from Anthony Mancuso regarding the signage. And lastly, the proposal by Wendell for engineering services that you have.
Yeah, now that's not the full proposal. I'm waiting on the actual terms and conditions of the proposal. This is,
He
I
said-
mean, that's the basis of it, but we're going to get the rest of it, he said, by tomorrow.
Yeah, he said that he already requested everything from everybody, and he's expecting everything by tomorrow. Okay. Now, the first step, he said, is that to get the engineer's contract. Is that what we're talking about? Started.
The what?
The email that he sent me, he said that the first step is to get the engineer's contract started and get a fiscal advisor on board. These are the first things we have to do, and
Yeah,
that's the
this.
contract that we have to pass.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, we'll have to have our attorney review the,
Yeah.
the real nuts and bolts of it. This gives a basic breakdown, but the, real meat of the issue comes in the terms and conditions that will be modified along the way.
Okay, well, this is exciting. We can start working on this one now. All right, and now we go to the SRO business. We discussed it many times, and we're getting nowhere. That's the point of this discussion. We said from the beginning we need a new resource officer at the school. We offered them a contract. They came back. We offered them exactly, actually, they asked us, and still they rejected the contract. Have no idea what's going on. I had a meeting with the superintendent, Mr. Sortisio. He assured me that he is for the SRO, and I have no reason to believe that he's not. So this is something else that I don't know what's going on. To be perfectly honest, as a mother, as a taxpayer, I'm totally ready to go to the meeting and ask openly what's going on. I know that our police department has been called 20 times since the beginning of the year,
19,
19 times.
a minimum.
A minimum of 19 times since the beginning of the year. And by all means, that's good. We have to go. We have to provide whatever services they are required. The point is this: this police department is being paid by the village taxpayers. The school is a school district. We're happy to provide everything, but at the same time, they have to help us do that. So I am, I suppose myself, I'm totally done waiting, and I'm planning to go there either to the next meeting or the one of the next meetings.
Next meeting is tomorrow night.
Next meeting is tomorrow night.
As a resident, I plan to attend.
So openly, I'm not going there to, hijack anything. I'm openly saying that I plan to go.
I've had both students and parents express to me concern that we don't yet have one. So I'm just urging any parents who also share that concern to please contact your school board members. You can contact them individually. You could go to the school board meeting. You can write them a letter. There's different ways of contacting them. But if you desire to have one and you think it's necessary, especially when we hear that the police have been up there at least 19 times, something needs to change.
I agree. Anybody else? I know you have some reservations, and that's fine.
I just think that when the school's ready, we could provide them the service, so until they're ready. I
So,
realize there are
a
concerns. No,
question, very-
from a village standpoint, not a citizen or a parent of students in the school, from a village standpoint, once they request it, we can provide them with a proposal.
They have requested it 19 times.
Okay, I guess they're not
That's
ready
my
yet. When they're
problem.
ready, we can offer them a proposal, that's fine. And I openly, as well, encourage concerned citizens to go if they are concerned.
I think that, with 19 times having to go, I think that would be considered ready. And they need someone there regularly, so I think that to give them a little nudge and to say, are you ready now? Wouldn't be out of the question. I think it's certainly worth asking again. One question I had, the school district is partly in the village and partly in the town.
And Brockton, right? Oh, no Brockton, Sheridan?
The physical
What else?
location of the building, is it part?
Yes, it's partly.
The property itself is partly in the town and partly in the village.
Most of the school is in the
Now,
town.
the township, town of Pomfret is covered by the sheriff's department, not by the village. Is there anything that ever worked out with the sheriff's department as far as that? Do they ever show up to anything? The sheriff's department, are they ever called to the school?
Not because they wouldn't come, because the school calls Fredonia Police Department. They just always have, and we've always provided the SRO, and historically, we've always provided the police services to the school.
Mhm.
Even though, I guess you could liken it, it's a little bit of a stretch, but properties on Middlesex Road, many of those properties straddle the city of Dunkirk and the village of Fredonia. But we go to every call on Middlesex, regardless of
Right.
whether you're mostly in the city or not, we go. And it's kind of just the same.
Right.
That was, what was resolving that issue was having the SRO position, because then the school district was funding it.
Right.
And,
No, that's-
and it didn't matter that the physical building straddled.
Right. And the people from the town pay school taxes just like the people
Yes.
in the village.
Yes.
That's, I guess, what I was just getting to,
Yeah.
was that point, is that's the reason that it should be done that way, where you would have the SRO, and it would come out of the school taxes to pay for it.
A couple of thoughts on some things. I think if you choose to want to go up as a concerned parent or a concerned village resident, that's fine. I just would be cautious as us going collectively as a board. I think we have to respect whether we agree with them or not. The bottom line, it's the school board's decision what they want. And I have to be honest, I'm very vocal about that when I'm out in public, when they say, well, you people won't give. No, the board has in good faith gone up. I've been on the the team that's gone up first as a board, and then Susan and I went up, and then we had another meeting when you were there. And I mean, for whatever the reason, the school board this is where they're going there. I think maybe one thing that might help and could get the ball rolling and doing some things, when I first came on the board, the town of Pomfret also contribute. The board contribute, if I'm not correct. They also were contributing towards the SRO officer. And we had done our budget, it was all set, and then all of a sudden, town of Pomfret pulled off and they weren't gonna give any more money. And then we picked up the whole ball from that. Is that something maybe we could do now to get the town board on board
I think
with
that
that?
if didn't we basically meet them at their money?
Yes.
Yes,
So
we did.
I don't think it's a money issue, I think it's a philosophical issue.
We met them.
If it flows through the school, there's actually 5 municipalities.
Yeah, there's 5
that pay into it.
municipalities.
Right.
So that's
So
the
we
way that it should
we
be.
offered them what they claimed they wanted in terms of how much money they needed to make it happen. And then they still said no.
And I've talked to individual school board members and that, and the rebuttal that was put back to me, if we're gonna spend that kind of money, they wanna put on another teacher on board. That's fine, but if
This
you
amount of
choose.
money will not put another teacher on board.
Well, they're
That's the-
saying it was 40,000 would be the entry-level start for a new teacher, new position, and that's what they felt they wanted to do. I question if they could continue to put the money that they put up for the football team, which I talked to the Mr. Forbes there, the financial officer, and I mean, I guess it's just where they want to put their priorities. And I don't know, other than going individually as concerned parents and saying, listen, we need to do that. But I think we'll get caught in a catch-22. We have to provide that protection to them with our police officers.
I think, to be very honest, I think they have the protection and they don't pay. So that's easy.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree, but
And
I don't see where we can not answer those calls or,
No,
jeopardize
of course not.
anything like
I
that,
never,
you know.
I never said anything like that.
No,
Of
I
course
know
not.
that, I mean,
Yeah.
but I just think we kind of get caught over a barrel. But I think we need to negotiate again or said, what are we going to do? Or just, as you said, announce it, have the parents go up and,
Yeah, and I didn't mean as a board to
Yeah.
go there, because I don't think that's a
Yeah,
good idea.
okay, I hadn't
No.
interpreted
I just
that.
also think it's important for people, for the public to know the numbers. I think some
I
people
agree.
don't really understand the number of calls that are being made. And that's not just to the school calls and also asks someone to maybe do something related to the school, but not necessarily at the school, is that correct?
But it's not
Right.
in that number, is it?
Some of those are in that number, some aren't. That's why I say at least. There are times where we are asked to help locate students who have walked off. And if that call gets entered as the student's address, home address, rather than the school address, I can't find it again. When I go back to cull statistics out of the monster, I can't get it back out of there again because it's not in as, it's an attempt to locate associated with a home address, not the school address. So when I say to you, at least, what I'm saying is I know that there are times that we've actually gone and looked for walk-off students, but they're not in that number.
But the request has just come from the
The
school.
request has come from the school, and, certainly we know that bad things have happened in the past when students have walked off, so we do everything we can to help locate those students and get them back to the school.
Thank you. Yes.
and the student needs to really relax that the whole cost is being put upon the taxpayers of just the village on that.
And my main thing is not even the cost. My main thing is that the students don't get the attention they need and the attention they would get
If
from
they had,
an
that's right.
officer, a full-time officer, who is going to be there the whole day. So we as a village, we spend this money, okay, that's fine, and the students don't get what they deserve as students in that school. And as a mother and as a taxpayer, I'm very worried about that, I have to say.
You know, the thing that just shows, so it shows where we are putting our priorities.
Yes,
And that's exactly what it is. And I know we have budget this position in our budget
Yeah, we
already,
have.
and we have offered it out. I mean, I don't know what other avenue to take to get them to come on board with us.
and I have to say that, I have to mention that municipalities around here, they pay much more, over double, if I'm correct, to have an SRO, and they do pay for this amount of money. So, it's just an honest question. Why we don't have an SRO? Why our kids who walk off the school, who use drugs, who have all these problems, don't have an SRO?
And I also think it would be nice for the other kids, hundreds of other wonderful kids who just want to make a connection with a police officer as maybe a mentor and a guide. I think that's
Absolutely.
invaluable.
Absolutely. So, all right. I'm going to go to the state of emergency update after a weekend of work on my part and a crazy day today with Rick running back and forth. We're going to I have the declaration ready. The declaration is going to be tomorrow morning. I'm declaring the water system of the village of Fredonia under state of emergency, and I have to make sure that everybody understands something. That doesn't mean that our water is not safe to drink. Our water is safe to drink and use. This is what it means. When these houses have yellow water, we know it comes because they have rusty pipes. However, rust does much more than it produce yellow water. What it does is deteriorates the pipes. Deteriorating the pipes, especially we know that there are over 12 years there that people have this water. Deteriorating the pipes produces weak points in the system. Weak points in the system can result in large or small water main breaks. And water main breaks, especially when they're large, they have the possibility or the potential of being a threat to public health because of contaminants, either bacterial, pathogens, or chemicals, or all of the above. So the state of emergency is that at any point we can have these big water breaks, and then we can have a threat to public health. Not that the water is at this moment unsafe. The water is safe to drink, is clean, but we have this potential, and in order to avoid that potential, we have to start addressing the problem. And I read your letter. Thank you. So this is where we are. It's just a lot of bureaucracy that we kept running back and forth. We'll get it over tomorrow, hopefully. If they don't ask us for another 5, 6, 10 copies to send to Washington, D.C. or...
And it's not unusual to declare a state of emergency before it happens.
The state
So,
of emergency
you know,
has to be declared.
No, I mean before the emergency happens. So before a hurricane hits, before as an emergency is imminent, it frees up the funding and the
Exactly.
ability to
Yes,
react.
yes, exactly. You have to
beforehand.
declare it before it happens.
Right.
Because, of course, yes. And that's the reason. And also, I was reading Perry's report from last week. This, the fixing of our water main breaks cost money. These are about $250 each sleeve. And we used at least 18, if I'm not mistaken, in the month of October. Well, that's about $4,500. Not to mention that you said that you depleted all our, what is that, the stone and gravel?
Yeah,
We depleted
backhoe,
that too. So it's not only the inconvenience, it's the extra money that we have to spend on that. So I just wanted to mention all that to know. After I declared it, I will send to each of you all the papers, so you know.
Mayor and Rick, is there any way coming up here that Lori from O'Brien and Gear can give us a presentation or some more information to the entire board, or does the entire board, does anybody else? They were supposed to
I
come in.
thought they were gonna do that.
Yeah, they were supposed to.
Well, we're trying to.
I thought that was when we were going to do the other plan.
We're
That was
trying
the
to,
line.
yes, and as far as I understand it, they, both from the state and from the county, they try to make me avoid, like not going to the lining. And I think the reasoning was pretty good. I think we talked about it with Manning too, and he agreed from O'Brien and Gear that lining is cheaper, not much cheaper, by the way, cheaper, but you really don't know exactly what you're lining. Maybe you're lining something that's really, really thin, or maybe you're lining, I mean, you have no idea what you're doing. You're spending your money, and this lining can be deteriorating in specific places very quickly, like in 10 years. And when I say cheaper, it's like instead of $800,000, if we line them, we're going to spend about $600. So yes, it's cheaper, but it's not like
It won't last too long. So you're
terribly cheaper.
kind of a short-sighted
Right.
fix instead of a long-term fix.
I mean, very expensive, sort of.
That's very expensive. And
So-
then, and in their study, they actually stated that they recommend the
Replacement.
replacement with other type of pipes. I don't know if you read that.
The question now is which streets are going to get priority, because the whole plan cost about 3.5, if I'm not mistaken, $3.7 million, which we don't have. So I asked Lori actually to come up with a plan that is a smaller plan, so we can do it gradually. Now, very quickly she came up with a number about 800,000, and I'm planning to call again and see what and why and all that. If I can, because don't forget this $800,000. If we get the emergency money, it's not a grant; it's a loan, and this loan has to be repaid next year in 1 year. We're hoping that we can get the grant to roll this money into that grant, but there's no guarantee. So to me, if we can go lower than 800 and go to the absolutely necessary, not to forget the rest, no, just to go step by step until we have some extra money. I think it's more responsible financially, and we're starting to address the problem.
I guess that's my question was, is to ask any questions we have of the engineers and to understand the scope of the project. Like you said, you wanted to go under 800,000. I don't even know what exactly, they're talking about as far as.
Yeah, the 3.5 million you have already, the plan that they sent. I don't know if we can ask them to come over.
Yeah, I'm sure once they get there, because both of them were on vacation part of the last, well, Lori was on vacation
The
the whole
whole
time.
week, yeah.
And Mike was the last couple of days of the week, so they need to get their arms around it and figure out what the best approach is. Then we can get them here and have them talk about their proposal, because they'll have to get us a proposal.
Exactly, that's what.
Yeah, so in order for the board to
Also,
understand what that proposal covers, that they'll definitely come here.
And also, they have to to apply for this emergency money. We have no other way of doing it. Like, we cannot apply. They have to come and apply for that. So, and this has to start as quickly as possible. You know, if it's an emergency, it's an emergency. You have to start working towards that.
I didn't know if the board had to make a formal request to have them come in to do that or not.
Sure, because there's a cost associated with it. Yeah. But, you know, they got to get their arms around it first. They know that that's what we're looking at, so that's what they're doing now, is they're getting all their ducks in a row, and then when they're ready, they'll come in and make a proposal,
So
like they did with the
Like,
reservoir.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say what they did with the reservoir was
Right.
perfect.
Yeah,
Mm.
same thing. Yeah.
So I mean, the
Perfectly
board, we're all on the
understandable.
same page that
Mhm.
you can come in and let us know what's going on.
Especially if there's more than one option.
There isn't really.
I mean,
That's
we have those 6 streets or whatever.
the streets,
Yeah.
and, you know, that's, I mean, we can discuss it, and that's fine. But I kind of go with their recommendation, and I just want the board to be as frugal as possible.
Can I ask one other question on James Place? There's 3 houses that are affected,
3.
that's correct. Has anybody ever had a licensed plumber go into these residences and start from ground zero and work your way out that way? Because if the whole street's not being affected, and if their service is fine, if it's of copper service and it's tapped in the right positions in the main, if the insides of their houses are composed of not copper service, or if it's galvanized or black pipe, you may have some issues there. I mean, would it behoove us to, I mean, if the homeowners allowed us to get a licensed plumber to inspect, start in their houses to make sure that their houses are,
Right, is the problem coming from in the home, or is it coming
There are
from
a
outside?
few ways to find out if the problem comes from inside or from the village. And I don't know if these ways were applied or asked. For example, if every faucet in your house has dirty water, this is probably not from your pipes, comes from the village. If first thing in the morning you turn on the pipe, the faucet, and dirty water comes out, that's your problem probably, especially if it clears out, because it means that the water that stayed there,
Sitting in the
that's
pipe.
the first water that comes out. And there's a third one, which I don't remember, unfortunately.
I mean, has that option been, or that possibility been explored and eliminated from the equation of?
Right, because then we wouldn't have to
Do
include that particular street in the larger plan.
I know, I've been asking that right from the
But-
beginning. I don't know why, I mean, this is, what the- you know.
So,
I was
they're
talking
about-
about this, when the engineering company has been recommended, we've been asking this right from the beginning, from the people who complained about it. Why some houses and not some other houses, and whether it's from the street. We had Perry dig up in front of the one house, the street, to see if it was connected properly. So, I mean, we investigated that. But I mean, we paid the engineering company to do this study, and they gave us a recommendation that this is what needs to be done. And I guess at this point, we're asking for emergency funding to replace pipes on the basis of the recommendation of
I'm saying continue
engineering
with all
company.
that, but
I mean, but we're going back to square one again, looking at the same situation.
Well, I have to say 2 things about this. First, that the engineering company, I hope it's a big engineering company, that this was part of their thinking. I mean,
Right.
we think about it ourselves here, and we have no engineering background.
Exactly.
I'm thinking that they did already. So
That's what I
they
was-
went through that.
That's what I was stating.
And second, I want to ask Perry, actually. Paul Lewis told me that when you turn on the hydrants to flush the system, the first thing that comes out is very yellow or brown water. Is that true? Well, if the flushing of the hydrants
Right.
gives you colored water, that's unlikely to be coming from individuals. That's what I'm thinking. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
What's traditional, anytime a hydrant is turned on, you're gonna get a little bit of discolored water because the water sitting around the ball, it's just a piece of rubber in the bottom,
okay.
and it will discolor. Any hydrant you open up, you're gonna get some discolored water, but that doesn't necessarily dictate what the houses are getting.
Okay, so is that like James Place, is that any different from any other? Like if I go, we
No.
go in front of
No,
here?
not
Okay.
generally. We do what we call a directional flow. When we flush that, we shut valves off to force the water to flow to a dead end. So it does run a little dirtier for a little bit longer than a normal fire hydrant would flush out. But that's because we're forcing, we're directionally.
Right, yeah, yeah. Of course, that means that all pipes in the village
One
have
of the main
rust.
problems down there, and I've talked to the engineers when we talked on that conference call, is that we need to loop that system. It's a dead end, and dead ends are always gonna have, you're always gonna get, after a 2 or 3 day period, you're always gonna get stagnant water sitting there, there's just not enough use draw off the line. So if you loop this system, and it can be done easily down there, but the engineers are looking at that, so.
And yes, and actually, we talked about that when we had the conference call the other day. I remember that we need to do that, to cover that as well. So, I mean, I don't know how to answer the question. Should we send and get the permission and send a licensed plumber to everybody who has this problem?
To the 3 houses that have the problem. to
And-
make sure
and-
they're-
Are they
Carroll
next door
Avenue
to
about
each other?
30.
Carrie, can you think of a reason why
Carroll
just
Avenue
those
has
three?
about 30.
Can you think
Here's
of a
only 3
reason why
houses
just
that are
those three?
affected.
No, Carroll Avenue has about 30
Oh, okay,
houses.
I'm thinking James
Oh,
Place.
sorry.
No, Carroll Avenue has about 30. Middlesex has, I don't know how many, but they have a lot.
Okay. That's right.
So,
Theirs is because it's not looped,
Thank you,
and
Ron.
they got a lot of those dead ends,
Yes.
the little spurs off of there, that there's just not enough water that moves in those things.
Well, exactly, the entire streets on Carroll and those other ones all the houses are affected apparently. This isn't the case here on James Place, it's only the 3 houses, so that was my thought, with just those 3 houses that were affected on James Place.
And are they near each other?
I believe they're
I
all.
think
Yes.
they're all-
One
Okay,
next
so-
to the
Clustered
other.
at the end of the street.
Totally at the end of the
Okay.
street.
So that's just, I mean, whatever, that's just my thought. If it was covered already, great, if it wasn't, that's something I thought that might you want to start from the interior of the house and see what their plumbing is.
And that might be a question that we ask.
We could ask the engineers.
Right, yeah.
I think that's exactly what we're gonna have to do. Like I
Whether
said,
that
this-
would be
this
a-
was been hashed around for so much, and why they, I don't know if they actually addressed that in that study. It didn't seem like they did, but
It seemed like a pretty common sense thing to start.
yes, it does. It looks, I mean, it should have been that way right from the get-go, but,
And that's why I think that they probably addressed this question,
yeah.
because, I mean,
Well, and-
that's what I
well,
think.
They're stating that the age of those pipes are all the same, about the same era, and some of those streets have many, many more problems than the one. So they're justifying their answer with the idea that all those streets are gonna have the same issue. They're not line pipes. They know they're not line pipes. Those are
Well,
it's just a
that's the
cast iron
biggest
pipe.
problem, that the pipes are not lined, and they're supposed to be lined.
Right, so,
Um,
I mean, the pipes they would use today wouldn't be just a plain cast iron pipe.
Not to
So that-
mention all the chemicals that we put in there.
May have an effect on it, correct.
It's having a
And-
differential effect on those pipes compared to every other. pipe.
Yeah.
Right, so, I mean.
And
it-
rust binds chlorine, so it also changes the water chemistry.
Right, so that's why they were recommending changing those to the ductile lined pipe. Correct? That they want
Yeah,
to go to the
that's what-
ductile
that's what I
type pipe? And then that would, they believe that would solve the issue with that rusting, because
That-
then it would be a lined pipe.
That along with rerouting some of that,
Right.
or looping it, yes.
Right, along with that would then, the combination of that would then give us a long-term fix in that area.
And end the flushing?
And,
And then the flushing.
and that would end the flushing then? If you had the loop and the new ductile, you wouldn't have to flush anymore then?
I still would, wouldn't
The system still needs to get flushed.
Well, yeah, annually.
But not
or
that-
just-
not
or, I
so.
mean,
But
the
not
whole
every
system
week
does.
or whatever.
Yeah, you're not
Right.
gonna get away
Not with
from
a
it.
test.
No,
Yeah.
no, you have to,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah,
recommendation.
you
No,
have
he
to
means
do
not
it.
every week.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly, that gets
It
rid
has a
of
huge
that.
amount of water.
Right.
Sure.
And Mayor, by no means did I insinuate or hopefully nobody took it that these houses do have the bad plumbing. I just didn't know if the engineers started at that point.
No, I
So,
understand that.
I
We
mean,
all
just
thought
so-
about that, yeah. I mean,
Don't
in the
want-
back of our mind, it's of course,
They did go to those houses and test the water from inside in at the hydrants and stuff throughout the system. That's what they did.
they checked it at the hydrants,
Yeah,
yes.
well, yeah, but they also
They
took
did not
samples
go
from,
inside the house,
yeah, they took.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, they
did.
In Paul's house, they did.
only in Paul's
Yeah,
house.
in Paul's
Because
house.
There
when
was-
I read
thought there was
the
several
study,
houses on that list. I don't have the study with me,
No,
but
I don't think they went into other houses.
and definitely, I mean, the iron was high. If you go through the studies, are very dry, but you can see numbers that are higher than what you would like to have. I mean, what's normal. So, all right, let's see if they can come to give you a presentation and. All right. Also, I have to. I just got right before I came here an email from Mr. Pete Musso.
Yes.
And,
I'll ask,
yeah.
ask how that was coming along.
Okay, good. So I can email him that you're taking care of it.
No, I was going to ask.
Oh,
if
I'm
there-
sorry.
How, I wasn't here last meeting, I don't know as if we started the process of doing whatever we had to do. for
We didn't
the-
do anything last week.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I can let them know.
Right?
What
Did
are
we
you
do
talking
anything?
about?
Yeah, what are you talking
The
about?
reg-
Carol
Carol
Avenue?
Avenue,
Carol
the
Avenue.
Carol
The,
Avenue.
the storm sewer?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I just got an email. The email said, now you have an attorney. I guess you can do it. So, he's right.
Right.
oh, right.
We need to work on that easement.
Can I inquire about one other thing, just as a follow-up? When we had the big water break there, up on Catskill Heights, down in the thing, and they also, they had in the same spot there where the creek was, they had problems in February. So they took care of the property. I ran into a property owner, and that lawn still is all dug up. All the debris is still down there in the basin and in everything. My question is, who's responsible for that?
Up with the trees and stuff in the back?
Yeah, there's kind of like piles all down in the
Right,
creek bed,
we cleaned
but,
up some of it, but we can't get back there right now because of the weather. Till it
Okay.
dries up. but,
and then like,
We clean it up.
oh, you do, okay, and then when you came between the houses and then to get down into the bed with that big, the tractor, the excavator and that, is that the property's owner
So
too?
we'll take care of
You'll
that too,
take
but
care-
now's not the time of year to be top selling and seeding, so. We had it all done and all grown and then we have another break, so. It'll be
Okay,
taken care of in spring.
all right, just so I can let her know I followed up on it. Okay, thank you, Perry.
Anybody else? Anybody from the public? No? All right, now we wait. Seventh day of November 2017 at 7:30 p.m. in the trustees' room, second floor, Village Hall, Fredonia, New York, and public notice of the time and place of this meeting has been given to the news media and conspicuously posted in one or more designated public locations in accordance with Section 104 of the Open Meetings Law.
We have one report tonight, that's the fire department report for the month of October. They had a grand total of 195 calls, of which 142 were rescue and EMS, false alarms and false calls 29, 10 good intents, 10 service calls, and 6 fires. And
Thank you.
That's it for reports.
Correspondence was received from Dave George, President of the Fredonia Beaver Club, Inc., informing that the Board of Directors has approved a gift of $10,000 to the Village of Fredonia Police Department to be used for the purchase of a speed monitoring message board.
Whereas the Fredonia Beaver Club Incorporated of Fredonia, New York has approved a gift of $10,000 to the Village of Fredonia Police Department as set forth in their letter dated November 21st, 2017, to be used for the purchase of speed monitoring message board. Now therefore be it resolved that said gift is accepted for the purpose stated in said letter dated November 21st, 2017, and the mayor is hereby authorized to send the Fredonia Beaver Club a letter thanking them for their generous gift to the Village of Fredonia.
I second.
Trustee Greeley.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Correspondence was received from Anthony Mancuso, owner of Mancuso Service Center, regarding proposed local law number 3 of 2017, and requesting the board to review the limitations of signage in the M1 district and provide business the option to install the LED signage. Now, should I read the letter? Okay, this is the letter from Mr. Mancuso. On November 27, 2017, the village trustees will hold a public meeting to address political and signage throughout the village of Fredonia. Please forward this letter to all board members before said day and can be read at the November meeting. Thank you. As for being the owner of Mancuso Service Center in the village of Fredonia, we feel that businesses are limited on advertising their services and specials on any given day. The modern way to advertise a business to the general public is by LED signage. The Fredonia Fire Department on the west side of the village was able to install an LED sign at their location, which looks welcoming when entering the village. The zone from Clinton Avenue to Newton Street is also part of the business district of Fredonia, Zone M1. Having doing business in Fredonia for 64 years, we feel it is time for a change. Open the village signage to new ideas. Let the general public know that Fredonia is welcoming to all from east to west. LED signage has the ability of doing so. We appreciate the board to review the limitations on signage in the M1 district and provide businesses the option to install the LED signage. Thank you, Anthony Mancuso, owner and president, Mancuso Service Center.
We discussed this at some length as we put this ordinance together, and you'll note from the ordinance itself that the electronic signs, the CEVMS signs, are limited to the C2 district, which was, heavily industrialized.
Mhm.
Now, by putting it in the M1 district, the division of the community into industrial, it fits. But it was generally thought that the one up by 60 and 20 is enough. And in fact, we did have public input, ad hoc, but visitors, and they thought that it was just a distraction. And that was where it was left. The fire department does have one in there, but that's because Portland had one, I'm sure. We had to have one.
Plus, the fire department doesn't have the limitations that general public has.
I'm sure, but, that was approved, and what he's saying is true, Mr. Green. It's entirely up to the community and the village. We took the best input that we had and limited it to the C2 district. Again, trying to keep it away from residences and that. As you know, there are some residences up along 20 towards 60.
Right.
They would be affected.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Thank you.
Mr. McKay, I was looking through it before the meeting here, and under signage here, they use the term animated or revolving under both the M1 district and the C2, and you have definitions for those, and animations, the movement of any light used in conjunction with a sign, and the commercial electronic variable messaging signage as the electronic LED signs is different. Now, your regulations and your restrictions on those two speak of animated or revolving signs shall be prohibited, but it does not say anything about the, I didn't see, if I did, I missed it, I must be, about the CEVMS signs.
Yeah, that's back in 297-16.8. And basically, it's subparagraph B under that, which cites that it's permitted only in the following areas in the C2 district. And it does go on to address some of the issues of the animation and the flashing of letters and the speed by which they change, the scrolling and blinking. That came out of some other engineering references that we found. And those things can become distracting to traffic on the highway. If they're changing too fast, if they're moving too fast. So that's the reason for the mention of animation. It says animation is permitted, but it needs to be, relatively slow. Just kind of like phasing one picture in and another one comes up. Again, trying to avoid driver distraction or trying to keep up with the sign while they're driving.
Is it some of the issue there on East Main Street, is that one side of the street is an R1 restricted, and then the other side, where it would be Mancuso's and Basil would also fall into that if they decided they wanted some kind of an illuminated signage?
Right now, Trustee Jones, I don't have my zoning map over here. That's not quite possible.
Yeah.
Where Mancuso's, and that is, it is light industrial M1.
Okay,
and
but
Tri-Base
across
West.
the
Yeah,
street.
as he points out.
This is Temple.
Yeah.
Okay, but
This is
where-
Main Street.
Street is what he says.
Yep, this is Newton here. Sorry, this is Newton right here. This is Clinton Street.
It's Clinton to Newton, isn't it, where the concern is?
Yes.
And that is
Yeah,
light
Clinton's on
industrial
one side,
M1.
Newton's on the other.
Okay, but I
what's
was,
across
my
the
point
street?
is, though, if it's across the street, and I just answered my own, it's all right. So that's where they're kind of get caught. One side of the street is zoned one way, and the next across the street is an R1.
Oh, yeah, R1, M1.
Okay.
And actually, you're right, because if, signs right across the street from people who live there and sleep there, I'm not sure how.
Yeah, I grew up on that strip across from Basil.
Okay.
And we had to have dark shades and everything because the lighting, and your bedrooms are upstairs in the front, so, yeah, it is.
Yeah, you're right. So, what do you want to do?
Would this be something that would have to go to the planning board?
If you want to change it, yes. That,
Come before the board. I don't know whether the zoning board gets involved or not.
it should be right.
I know he's come before the board before and asked to be able, as soon as the one went up for Tuscany,
That
he
was after
came.
the fact, it was already done, it was a done deal.
Yeah, and
And he
he's raised this before.
Yeah, he has.
Um,
I remember, and I have remembered him coming when I was sitting at that time it did come to the zoning board. And I remember talking at that time when I was sitting on the zoning board.
Well, I guess if he wants to do that, I'd like to hear from the people who live across the street.
I'm just,
Well,
concerned
and
about
as I
this.
said,
Right, I
having
mean,
lived there, it
I-
is, it's.
I understand his
Well, the thing was-
desire, but I don't
Matter
know
of
how you
fact,
balance it.
when he came before, he said that he had letters from people that lived across the street approving of such signage. The thing is those same people may eventually try to sell
Sell
those
their
residential properties,
Right.
and you won't have those same people down the road. So, it's,
And will they have difficulty selling
it can't,
the property if
or
it's
they
across
gotta be able
from-
to sell it again.
Right.
So they could cause, issues for many people in an R1 district down the road.
I wish,
It would, for just his property, it would be spot zoning at this point.
Mhm.
And you can't do that. And if you're gonna allow it, you'd have to allow it in all the M1 district. And then,
And then there
which would, that would
quite
then,
a few right
you would have a
there.
lot of
Right
those LED signs in that M1 district right across the street from R1. And that was the thinking back when the-
Arkwright printing down here.
Right, and that would allow it in other areas of the village that are M1, which would be right downtown. So
Right.
then, that was the thinking back when it was put years ago, a number of years ago, back when it was allowed in the C2, which is a highway district. That's where the thinking was, is to limit it to that C2 district.
I mean, I
which-
understand what he says, and it's a good idea, but what it is right now, it just, I have a slight problem with that. I mean, it's up
And
to
I,
you,
I
obviously.
think when you're looking at the zoning, and I agree, I'm not for spot zoning, and across the street in your R1 district, if you do open it up for one, who's to say if Dr. Irick didn't want to come and
Right.
say, well, you have it across the street,
Right.
why can't I have it? And then just a few doors down, you have a local dentist, so I can see where it
Very
could
so.
really open up a lot of.
I think the
Right.
planning board put a lot of time into this, and they did the due diligence
Right,
in
that's
in
what I
holding
think.
holding the
Yes.
meetings, and I think
I agree. And we
had the input
I think that
from
the planning
people,
board made a
public.
very good recommendation moving forward with this, with where they have it. And I would recommend that we would move forward with voting on the acceptance or not of this law at this time.
I agree.
Jim, Dan brought up a point here.
Sure.
The zoning board, they can grant a reasonable request without spot zoning.
I'm sorry?
The zoning board can grant reasonable requests without spot zoning, is that?
Under a variance?
The
Yeah,
point I
we
was
came-
making was that you could pass the law this evening, and then Mr. Mancuso's request could go to the zoning board of appeals,
Correct.
which could then consider that on a
On a
case-by-case basis,
case-
and it wouldn't have to worry about the spot zone.
Right, if he meets the requirements and the
Yeah.
zoning board wishes
Agrees.
to allow that and agree with that, that is correct.
So at this point, he should be,
That is correct.
Correct.
I don't see this request impeding this ordinance right now, because it would be a simple case of entering M1 in here if the board so wants at a future date, so. But,
I'm not sure if you
Yeah.
It should be considered, because he has asked us before, a lot of other businesses have it. It's just that we had input, pros and cons, and we just felt that the residences kind of carried the day.
And if it did go, if it went that way, if we adopted the resolution now, and it became a law, and then he chose to come to the zoning, when you do that, then the surrounding neighbors would
Have
all
the-
get a letter, and they would
Mhm.
have a right to come in
And speak.
and voice their
Right.
opinion, and I think then everybody gets due process.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
that's-
So that might be a better
it's
process.
not- We're not
Yes.
preventing him from asking the
Yes.
zoning for the ability for the, he has the right to go to the zoning. So he's right, we
Yeah.
could move forward with this law, and
So should we write an answer to this letter, so he knows, or
Invite him to, yeah.
how he's, how
Or else
informed?
have
The attorney.
building inspector to call, place a call to him.
Okay.
it's a building inspector did.
The other pro of LED
the
lighting, I know we
options.
all think they're ugly, is it reduces number of signs that businesses need to have. So right now they have a car rental sign, they have multiple signs for different things. I think what he's saying is if I had one sign that I could
Right.
change, I wouldn't have to have the standing board sign over here, the car rental poster over here.
Presumably,
the-
anyhow.
You know, I would hope that that would be a pro of having a changeable sign, available.
All right. So now the public, anybody else from the public about the signage? So I should open the public hearing actually, right?
Yeah, we should open it before.
Yeah.
But you said that was the public hearing.
Yes, that was the public hearing. Well, this being the time and place for the public hearing on proposed law number 3 of 2017 entitled a local law repealing article, what is that? XV 16 of chapter 297 of the Code of the Village of Fredonia entitled the zoning law, sign restrictions, and enacting a new article 16 of chapter 297 of the zoning law of the Village of Fredonia regarding sign restrictions. Proof of publications is being shown. I call the hearing to order. The correspondence should be under that. So, I guess we concluded it.
Rick, you seemed like you weren't sure
No,
about.
we're okay.
Okay.
Now we open in the public portion about anything and everything. Anybody wish to talk? And we close it. Let's go to resolutions.
Be it resolved that Thomas Kolsky, 151 Chestnut Street, Fredonia, New York, is hereby promoted to the position of plant operator at the water filtration plant at an hourly rate of $21.27, effective December the 3rd, 2017, subject to civil service rules and regulations and subject to a probationary period of 6 months.
A second?
Trustee Greeley.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Whereas a public hearing was duly called and held before this Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia on this 27th day of November 2017 on the question of the enactment of proposed local law number 3 of 2017 of the Village of Fredonia entitled, "A Local Law Repealing Article 16 of Chapter 297 of the Code of the Village of Fredonia entitled the Zoning Law Sign Restrictions and enacting a new Article 16 of Chapter 297 of the Zoning Law of the Village of Fredonia regarding sign restrictions." And whereas due proof of publication in the Observer of the notice of public hearing on the proposed local law was presented to this board, and whereas said proposed local law was laid upon the desk of the members of the Board of Trustees at least 7 calendar days prior to this date, and whereas after due deliberation this board desires to enact said proposed local law, now therefore be it enacted by the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia as follows. Whereas the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia is desirous of amending Chapter 297 of the Code of the Village of Fredonia to repeal Article 16 of Chapter 297 and to add a new Article 16 of Chapter 297 to the zoning law of the Village of Fredonia regarding sign restrictions. And whereas to commence the enactment of procedure proposed local law number 3 of 2017 of the Village of Fredonia has this day been laid upon the desks of the members of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia, and proposed local law number 3 of 2017 of the Village of Fredonia entitled, "A Local Law Repealing Article 16 of Chapter 297 of the Code of the Village of Fredonia entitled, the Zoning Law, Sign Restrictions, and enacting a new Article 16 of Chapter 297 of the Zoning Law of the Village of Fredonia regarding sign restrictions." Whereas after much study and meetings, the Planning Board of the Village of Fredonia Board, through its chairman, G. Scott McKay, has recommended in his letter dated February 22, 2017, various revisions to the zoning law of the Village of Fredonia relative to signs in order to comply with recent U.S. Supreme Court decisions and to clarify certain sections of the sign law. And whereas proposed local law number 3 of 2017 of the Village of Fredonia entitled, "A Local Law Repealing Article 16 of Chapter 297 of the Code of the Village of Fredonia," entitled the Zoning Law Sign Restrictions, and enacting a new Article 16 of Chapter 297 of the Zoning Law of the Village of Fredonia regarding sign restrictions, has this day been laid upon the desks of the members of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Fredonia. This local law shall take effect immediately upon filing with the Secretary of State of the State of New York. Now therefore be it resolved that the village clerk is hereby authorized to file said local law with the Secretary of State of the State of New York in accordance with the law, and be it further resolved that a notice of the enactment of this local law will be published in the Observer.
Upon roll call vote, the following votes will
I have
cast.
to
Oh,
second
sorry.
it.
Yeah.
I second.
And again, upon roll call vote, the following votes will cast with Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Essek.
Yes.
Trustee Greeley.
Yes.
So the local law was thereby declared adopted by 5-0 vote. And I want to say, Mr. McKay, thank you very much for your work. That was a lot of work.
Thank
We
you.
do appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so can I have you do it?
Is that it?
That was it.
Yep.
Done. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Oh,
Christmas
yes,
thing.
before that, yes. The Village of Fredonia Youth Council is sponsoring a holiday candlelit stroll downtown Fredonia. The invitation is for the 21st of December, 6:30 in the afternoon, the evening, actually. Two meeting places. One place is by the fire hall, and the other place is by the new Cup and Spell coffee place, tea place. Outside, there are going to be carolers from the high school. We invite the public to go there, either of these locations, walk with the carolers downtown. That's a Thursday evening. We're going to have hot chocolate and cookies for everybody who comes down. Bring your kids, bring your friends and family, that would be great. And then everyone is invited to a holiday movie, Christmas Story, at the Opera House, and everything is free, just offered by the Youth Council. Please consider coming. Come and have a good time with us.
Question. If you just come to the movie,
That's fine
when
too.
would that start, do you think? Is that the
It's going to
start
start around
time?
7:15.
Okay.
Yeah. Depending on the weather. If the weather is, is nice, people are going to.
Is there a rain
If
date?
it's
Or we'll just skip
raining-
the stroll and go straight to the movie?
Bring your umbrella.
We'll have the cookies inside?
Only
maybe?
positive waves. Positive waves now.
Bring your parasol.
Only positive waves. If it's raining, if it's snowing,
If it's
we
snowing, it'd
can
be
walk,
great. That
we
would
can
be
do
awesome
it
if it
inside.
was snowing.
Yes,
But
yes. But that's the plan for now.
I love snow.
So,
Okay, If there's no further business, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Trustee Crilly.
Yes.
Trustee Christina.
Yes.
Trustee Linden.
Aye.
Trustee Jones.
Aye.
Trustee Essen.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming.